Hi, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. This is Sunday on Monday, where we recap the events of the weekend. And we were going to do a special Islam show, but I'm going to move that to Wednesday. So in case you need to mark your calendar or put that into your smartphone, you know that on Friday we're going to devote the majority of the show to Islam and Muhammad and some of the history and nuances. It's going to be a remedial show for a lot of you out there, because I know you listen to the Trailer Park Prophet, so you have a better insight into what's going on with Islam and who's Muhammad and what are Shiites and what's the difference between them and Sunnis, and we're gonna dig into it, and it'll be a nice review for most of us, because I have some great stuff already pre-selected to share with you, and it'll be some of it'll be remedial education, but there'll be some new stuff, I can guarantee you that. And I think we're all going to learn together a little more about Islam. And I think it's fair to say that in the United States that Islam is being ignored by the mainstream media. In particular, Islam is being ignored by the progressive socialist statist movement, because, like I've said before, they're in bed with radical Islam. But I don't want to go into that a great deal. We got a pretty good show today, I think. We're going to talk about sex with teachers. Of course, I put that on top because they say sex sells, and I have an eye for the obvious. But we're also going to talk about the Sochi Olympics, military cuts, Alec Baldwin, jaywalking sex, blacks versus gays, reporter beheaded, Robert Reich, Israel down the tube, illegal gangs getting citizenship, and also we're going to talk about the NAACP, Rand Paul. We're also going to talk about Piers Morgan, and we're going to talk about what's that bozo's name? Anyway, Chris Mathews. Chris Mathews. We're going to talk about Chris Mathews today. How y'all doing, huh? You got through the weekend okay? Hope things are warming up for you. It's just absolutely beautiful here in Crestone, Colorado. There's snow on the mountain, Mount Crestone, which is 14,000 feet. It's sunny. I have the door open. Bailey's chewing on a bone. I'm going to start putting up some fences. I actually started putting up fence yesterday. And if you live out in the West or out in rural areas, building fence or repairing fence is an important part of the ritual of a coming spring. So it's kind of a romantic thing. I went out to the goat ranch and I got some fencing materials, talked to my friend Ann and Peter, got some other things I'm going to need. I'm going to move my fifth wheel around so that it's a little more on the property and a little more accommodating. I'm going to be living in Crestone, Colorado, on the back of my friend's property, and my goat ranch is outside of town. I don't know, 15 miles or so. At any rate, I was out there today. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Had a great time. Bailey had a good time playing with Ann's dog, so it was a lot of fun. I had a really good day so far today, and again, I'm really happy you're here with me. It means the world to look at all of my numbers and see how I'm getting more and more actual listeners, and it means the world to me. I mean, I don't mean to get melodramatic or anything. I just want you to know how much I appreciate that you listen to the show. It means the world to me. You have no idea. And let's see, do I want to start off with this story? Why don't I just start at the top? We're not going to do the teacher sex story just yet, so I don't get out of my sequence. I don't really know what people were talking about over the weekend. I guess I kind of know. They were talking about the Olympics. I'm trying to think what's going on in Washington right now of any note. I don't think anything's going on right now. I think everyone in Congress is on recess right now, and the president is over in Europe someplace, I think, if I remember correctly. No, the president, he might be on his way over to Saudi Arabia and Israel. Remember, the president's going there. He's either there now or he's going in the near future. So anyways, I guess the Sochi Olympics are over, and I saw this article written by a lady named Emily Dunn, headline, "What I Saw in Sochi Olympics and Discovered About Russia." She writes here, she says, in the days leading up to the opening ceremony of the Olympics, the media had little to report except for Sochi's problems, like hotels without lobbies and public bathrooms without toilet partitions. 3 truthful reports caused real concerns about whether or not Russia was truly ready for the Winter Games. A day before the closing ceremony, it seems that the Games have been largely successful. However, much of the success would be attributable to the Olympic sponsors and partners. 7 years ago, when the International Olympic Committee awarded the 2014 Winter Games to Sochi, there were no sports venues, no ski resort, and no transportation system. The committee gave Russia the Games in order to leave behind a legacy of world-class ski resort and a developed tourist destination. So I guess that's part of the mission of the Olympics now. Although a lot of these cities that actually end up sponsoring the Olympics, they wind up in trouble, a lot of them. I mean, they have this big, huge venue. A lot of times they owe money on it, and they have these big, massive structures that they'll never use again. I always heard the Olympics cost communities money and cause them problems afterwards, but who knows. Along with the gift of hosting the Games came required partnership with international Olympic sponsors like Coca-Cola, Dow, GM, Atos, Omega, and others. Many of these sponsors have been on the ground for several years preparing for the Games. General Electric delivered all the electrical and transportation infrastructure required for the Olympic Park, the new high-speed train system, and the mountain of venues. Omega provided the systems to time and score the competitions. Atmos was responsible for systems integration and live communication links between the venues and the rest of the world. The Olympic Park, the venues, the transportation hubs were swimming in Sochi volunteers who were friendly and ready to help. However, volunteerism is not a part of the Russian culture, and so in order to have an adequate workforce, many of the volunteers were taken from Russian universities and told that they must work in Sochi in order to graduate. Another sponsor of that'll be something Obama would like to see happen, or progressive socialist, mandatory public service like that. I mean, we're almost there anyway, except we actually, instead of having students volunteer, we actually pay them to volunteer, so we have another opportunity to try and acclimate their brains into the progressive socialist statist thinking. Another sponsor of the Winter Games was Contemporary International, a Canadian event management company which was responsible for developing the volunteer training, revenue manager training, and crowd management plans for the games. God, what a huge, huge undertaking. And you're asking yourself, well, Trailer Park Profit, how much did that cost? Well, since you asked, of the $51 billion that Russia spent on these games, $51 billion. A significant portion went to bribery and corruption. No bid contracts were awarded to Vladimir Putin's friends at excessive cost. Many of the venues were still under construction in the weeks leading up to the games, though they were scheduled to be complete months before. The roof for the Fitz Stadium, which houses the opening and closing ceremonies, was constructed poorly and hastily. Oh man, what if there's a catastrophe and one of these projects or structures fails? God, that would be your worst nightmare. Oh well. The ski jumping venue is reportedly sliding slowly down the hill, and at the Sankey Sliding Center, the signage is held together with duct tape, and retaining walls are visibly sagging. Imagine if the Russians were not required to use companies like GE, Omega, and Atos. Electricity, accurate event results, and live communications must be done accurately and expertly for the games to be successful. Just think if GE wasn't there. Who cares if we know what's going on? Hard to have much going on without electricity. Lucky for the Olympic athletes and spectators, Putin was not able to use friends and cronies to place in place of the Olympic sponsors. So kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into what's going on or what happened in Sochi. By the way, I want to remind you that if you'd like to call in to the Trailer Park Profit Show, you can do so. All you got to do is 646-716-8506. Again, that's 646-716-8506 if you'd like to call and talk personally with the Trailer Park Profit. I mean, who wouldn't want that? All right, I got an article here by BizPack Review. Now, this story, it's hard to really figure this one out, but the headline is, BizPack Review, Hagel to announce painful military cuts, prepare for slowdown. Now, Chuck Hagel is in charge of the Pentagon, and it says under pressure to slash the Pentagon budget, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel plans to announce painful cuts Monday, including reductions in pay raises, housing allowances, grocery subsidies, and health care benefits, according to the Wall Street Journal. In an election year, the reduction set up a surefire showdown with Congress and veterans, but in times of sequestration, military officials counter that such savings are necessary to protect critical functions. And it says here the personnel cost reflects some 50% of the Pentagon budget. Admiral John Kirby, spokesman for the Defense Department, said they cannot be exempted in the context of the significant cuts that the department is facing. Secretary Hagel has been clear that while we do not want to, we ultimately must slow the growth of military pay and compensations, which, I would think is kind of low. I mean, what we pay our soldiers and sailors isn't a whole lot. In a related development, the Army Times was informed that Special Operation Forces would not see increases in their fiscal year 2015 budget, the Washington Times reported. At a recent conference, U.S. Special Operations Commander Admiral William McGraven said that the organization needed to rebalance spending among operations and maintenance, research and development, and testing and evaluation needs. But, you know, here's the other side of the story, and that is that the sequester cuts only cut the rate of the proposed increase of all the budgets in the federal government. And I want you to mind that. But the question I ask myself, this is how my twisted, demented mind works. I'm asking myself, well, self, are these cuts, was it necessary that they needed to make it in the wages and benefits of our military personnel, or were there other stuff that could have been cut? In my mind there's other stuff that can be cut that we don't need. I mean, there are programs the military wants to see cut, but they continue to get funding because they have a strong legislative backing. They have a lot of congressmen and senators that back these particular weapons programs that the military doesn't want. And how many other programs are out there like that that could be cut and ensure that our military personnel do have pay raises and increases in benefits? I mean, if anyone in the federal government ought to be getting pay raises and increases in benefits, it's military before any other bureaucrat in the whole damn federal government. In other words, the military should be paid first. Anytime they put together a budget, they should talk about the military first. Talk about illegal aliens second, third, fourth, fifth. I don't know. What a crock. And my hope is it's not as bad as these guys say, because anyone who is in charge, you know, like this person as a spokesman for this particular budget, the military budget, you know, their job is to scream bloody murder. That's what Admiral John Kirby just told us. And so there's a disconnect between what we're being told and what really has happened. And I don't know that we can really figure out what's happened. I don't know that I trust this web page any better than I do on Fox or CNN or ABC, NPR. I don't know. I mean, even when they're not getting cut, they're crying they don't have enough money. I mean, that's just government. That's every program in the government. All right, you're listening to Daniel Gray. I'm the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from sunny, beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. This is Sunday on Monday. Here's a funny story from USA Today. Headline, Alec Baldwin says he's leaving public life. I don't think there's too many people that really care, and he's been threatening to do this for a while. Looks like we got to listen to this little ad. It's only 9 seconds. Ooh, my God. You should see this ad. They're making the frosting on cheesecake. And
there's a new latte to love at Starbucks.
Oh my God, that looks good. Anyways. Oh, it looks like we might have some video here.
Newsflash, Alec Baldwin is quitting the public life. Sound familiar?
Oh.
This time he is for real. Or so he says. I'm Cindy Clark, and this is your Daily Dish. So Alec Baldwin has quite the essay out on New York Magazine's Vulture blog. And if you haven't read it, it is long, long, long. The reason? He's declared that once and for all, the showbiz life is not the life for him. In it, he takes on the media and says this is the last time he's ever going to talk about his life in an American publication again. Now, we at USA Today feel pretty lucky since he just talked to us last week. And he did say his main focus right now is his family. So in the New York Magazine essay, he also says he's had it with New York and is thinking California sounds pretty good right about now. Other things he's had it with, people calling him a homophobe. He slams Anderson Cooper for wanting to vilify him. And he talks so much about how he's been mislabeled that you sense he is just so desperate to clear his name. It's kind of sad. He's also angry with MSNBC, and he says the show he wanted to do did not line up with what they had in mind. They suggested, for instance, he interview Rob Lowe. Seems Lowe has already read the article and tweeted that he might have done it if it had helped. Oh, and Baldwin also slams MSNBC host Rachel Maddow for pushing for his firing. All in all, Baldwin says 2013 was not his year, but he loves his wife and daughter more than anything, and he just wants to make movies and be done with it. One last thing, Shia LaBeouf, who also doesn't want to be famous anymore, as evident by that paper bag on his head. Well, Baldwin feels sorry for him. For more entertainment news, visit life.usatoday.com.
I just find Alec Baldwin interesting. And I don't know if he's so unhinged naturally, or maybe he's a hothead, who knows. It's just interesting, his life. I mean, what a great life. He's making bank doing commercials, bank commercials. I mean, God, if you go to work one day, or however it takes, I mean, I guess it could take a week to shoot an advertisement, but at any rate, they run it for months and months and months, and you make all kinds of money. I mean, holy macro. And it says here that he put a 500-word essay in the New York Magazine. You know, I wondered, why didn't Baldwin just go get himself an estate, or Alec Baldwin get himself an estate? You know, he's always getting in trouble out in front of his Manhattan apartment. I mean, if ever a guy should go get himself 40 acres and have a good, strong fence with a few security guards, I mean, that's what you want to get. You know, with a couple exits so the press can't follow where you're going. I mean, if you're in a city living in a penthouse, you're like a marked man. I mean, there's going to be paparazzi outside your door all the time. You know, just it's funny, you know. I mean, the guy's always talking about how he wants his privacy and he gets in trouble with reporters and photographers. Go get some property, Skippy. You know what I mean? Dumbass. And now, you know, he's allowed these emotional outbursts get to the point where he got fired by NBC. You know, that's gotta hurt. You know, this story here, I think I reported it on it last week. I've been watching this story. And the Raw Story's reporting on it again today. But everyone's talking about this story. In case you forgot or missed the show, it's a story. Oh boy, well, look what happened here. I got a little pop-up problem. Oh, look at this. It's a pop-up for the Democratic Senate Congressional Committee. And it says, stand with the Senate Democrats, plan to raise the minimum wage, and they want you to sign up and pledge money. Anyways, back to the story. Headline, Austin police chief says Jaywalker should be happy they're not sexually assaulted by cops. Article here by George Cindy. He turned it in on Saturday, and a lot of people are reporting on this story. There was this little jogger, woman. She has double braids, whatever you call that, pigtails, and she has a short black tank top on, black shorts, and she has those black shoes on with the toes, you know. The arrest of an Austin jogger on jaywalking charges earlier this week dragged screaming to the police car after apparently failing to present ID properly has become the stuff of viral video after a University of Texas at Austin student captured the incident. Now, Austin's chief of police has weighed in, telling the public they should be glad his officers aren't treating people even worse. And I mean, this woman, she looks like she's 25, 28, very slender. She had her earbuds in, and she didn't hear the police calling to her. So they reacted to her as if she was fleeing the scene or resisting arrest, which in this modern day and age, officer, is a pretty stupid thing to assumption to make. Everybody has buds in now, and they're not going to hear you. Dummies. Quote, and here's the Austin police chief saying that this person absolutely took something that was as simple as Austin police stop and decided to do everything to see on the video. Austin police chief Ace Veto said at a press conference Friday, according to the Austin NPR station 9005 KUT, quote, quite frankly, she wasn't charged with resisting. She's lucky I wasn't the arresting officer because I wouldn't have been so generous. In other cities, there's cops who are actually committing sexual assaults on duty. So I thank God that this is what passes for controversy in Austin, Texas. Ace Veto said, how can you be so insensitive? What an absolutely stupid thing to say, except that it's good to know that amongst cops, they're talking to themselves at cop conventions that we pay for. That's what they're talking about. So now we know there's a lot of sexual assaults by police. What a surprise. Probably stays out of the paper or off the TV. I guess it might be paranoia to suggest that the cops are in bed with the media. Are the cops, you think, in bed with the political actors? Sure they are. Are the cops in bed with the media? You better believe it. Are all three groups I mentioned in bed together? The cops, the politicians, and the media? Hell yeah! That's what you call status. Not long after that, it became clear that the Ace Veto had essentially told the public that they should be grateful that all police officers did not bundle a woman who had been jogging through the streets of Austin into the back of a police car because she crossed against the light, instead of molesting her or charging her with more serious offenses. Now, Saturday evening, Ace Veto, Chief Ace Veto, what a name, issued an apology for his earlier comments, calling it the result of an emotional week. Well, we're glad. I'm glad. Everyone here at the Trailer Park Profit Show is glad that Chief Ace Veto told us that a lot of other police districts are raping jaywalkers. But this is what Ace Veto had to say. Quote, during the press conference, I attempted to place the arrest in context by bringing attention to the fact that law enforcement deals with many acts of serious misconduct, Ace Veto wrote. So you see that he had to apologize to all his fellow police chiefs. I imagine he got a lot of pushback from other police departments. That statement right there tells us that. He went on to say this includes recent instances in the news of sexual assault by police officers in other cities. In hindsight, I believe the comparison was a poor analogy, and for this I apologize. I stand committed to transparent leadership, yeah, and will continue to engage the community we serve in an open, honest, and timely manner. Yeah, sure. I mean, he got a lot of nasty emails, and probably had a visit to the mayor. He really stepped in it, but you know what? I don't think there's been that many, and we could probably Google it, of course, but I don't remember seeing that many reports about police officers sexually assaulting women. I think he knows something that we don't know. Not that that's any surprise, but in other words, I bet it's a lot worse. I bet you sexual assault on teachers and policemen is a hell of a lot worse than we know about. You are listening to the Trailer Park Prophet. Daniel Gray, I am your host du jour. This is Sunday on Monday. You're listening to Blog Talk Radio. Thank you mucho much. I do want to remind you that I have a little business. It's called the Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection. And if you or somebody you know is thinking about going overseas maybe for a while and would like to meet some really nice women while they're there, you could just go to the Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection and check out 20 to 30,000 women. It fluctuates between 20 and 30,000 women that we have in our computer base. They're pre-screened. And we know they're not con artists or prostitutes. They're just nice women. You can go to our website and check them out. We have a really, really nice state-of-the-art website. We're the best dating service in the world. Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection. And we'll help you arrange a trip. Make sure you're put up in a nice, safe, clean area of whatever community you choose or country. And we have these chauffeured, not chauffeured, but is it chauffeured? No, what is it? Chaperoned events. Chaperoned events by our staffs all over the world. Again, if you or anyone else you know may need some love in their life, tell them to look at the Trailer Park Prophet Love Connection. Ta-da! All right, I got a good story here from Alan B. West. Steadfast and loyal. Conservative black man from Florida. Someone that I think he's running for Congress again. So if you believe in conservatism and well, Alan West is unique on his own. He is a true historian. He was in the military for 30 years. And he's well read and he's funny and he's the whole package. And he's also a black conservative Republican. And he writes here, I love his writing. He's a good writer too. Headline here by Alan West today is Black Christian Leaders Challenge Michigan Courts on Marriage Definition. And I'm doing this story, one, because it's interesting, two, is because it's still Black History Month. February is Black History Month. And this is a story that a lot of people I don't think are familiar with. And that is that a lot of blacks are very much against equal rights for gays. And a lot of blacks don't like it when gays consider themselves in their struggle for equal rights comparable to blacks. A lot of blacks don't appreciate that at all. So Alan West writes here, some in the GOP, that's grand old party, Republicans, wish to turn their backs on Christian conservatives and say the Republican Party should just stop talking about social issues, which is true. I actually say that too. They seem to believe a collective mea culpa is the best way forward and that social conservatives are causing them to lose. I think that's something I say. The message to the GOP establishment, you are totally wrong. And maybe we should change the party initials to OTL, out to lunch. This is the problem with the GOP and all those, quote, inside the Beltway consultants and pundits. Good point. If the GOP would actually get out into America, they'd understand policy inclusiveness, not just the emptiness of outreach. In the black community, social conservative issues are more unifying than fiscal issues. I've often said the most conservative people in America on the Sunday are black. Huh. And that's a nice way to put it, and something you might want to remind yourself of. And don't think of blacks as this monolithic group, although it's hard to not say that knowing that 95% of blacks voted for Obama. But, really, I don't know. We don't want to wade into that. In 2008, the year we sadly entered into the age of Obama, there were 2 ballot initiatives on same-sex marriage in two populous states that went for Obama: California, Proposition 8, and Florida, Amendment Number 2. Regardless that Obama won those states, both initiatives won electorate support to support marriage between one man and one woman. See, that's interesting. That should tell you a lot. But liberal progressives wouldn't want to admit that a record black voter turnout resulted in their passing. The same has occurred in North Carolina, where same-sex marriage proposal went down in flames. However, when secular humanist progressives don't get their way, they immediately run to the courts for judicial activism to overrule the referendum of the electorate, which is true. So true. I'm trying to think if you see conservatives running to the court as much as liberals do to overturn initiatives. I don't know. I can't think of a case right offhand, but it does seem like liberals are always going to the court. I think that's safe to assume. I mean, just look at the ACLU. I mean, they're always in the court. They're in business for the court, to be in the court for the progressive socialist movement. And so is the group, or groups like the Southern, what is it? The Southern, I'll think of it in a minute. Okay, anyways, going on with this article. At a news conference in Detroit, Michigan on February 24th, 2014, over 100 pastors and Christian leaders from the city of Detroit and throughout the state of Michigan will join together at the First World Changers Church in support of the Michigan Marriage Amendment that was passed by voters in 2004. The pastors will bring their collective voices in support of traditional marriage between one man and one woman as a federal bench trial. But you know what I'm thinking? You know what, blacks? If marriage was such a big deal, then why did you re-elect Obama in 2012? So black rights trump God, right? I mean that. I don't know. I mean something's happened there. There's obviously a disconnect. And for me, this is all just water underneath the bridge. I don't even want to read any more of it. Well, here is several points the pastors wish to highlight about God and marriage between one man and one woman. God created marriage as a covenant between one man and one woman. How would you know that? The Bible was written by men. God created marriage between one man and one woman to be the foundation for building a family. How would you know that? And I guess, now that I think about it, there's passages about the importance of family. And God created sexuality as an expression of unity between a man and a woman in the marriage covenant. No way. No way. How would you know that? God created the covenant of marriage between one man and one woman as a replication of the covenant between God and man. I don't know. And granted, this discussion of whether or not the marriage or whether or not marriage should be between a man and a woman. I mean, this discussion has been going on now for 100,000 years, and so this is nothing new. Nothing new at all. But here's something here. Here's something from the Emanuel Cleaver. He's the Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus chairman. He says here, well, let's see, or even former Congressional Black Caucus chairman Emanuel Cleaver and an ordained minister, will they stand up, or will they stand upon the Judeo-Christian principles or just be lapdogs for the Democratic Party and the secular progressives? See, that's the rub. And see, in what we learn from that is who wins. Who wins? The gay issue win, or do blacks have to grow a backbone? Says here, the issue of the marriage protection is not a matter of conservatism, liberalism, libertarianism, Democrat or Republican platforms, but is a matter of righteousness. It is a matter of biblical principles, said Reverend Dr. Roland A. Caldwell, a pastor of Bernadette Inspirational Ministry. I agree completely with Reverend Dr. Cadwell, and I should remind him that 2012 there was one political party that had to vote to put God back into their platform, and that's a good point in case you missed it. The Democratic Party took God out of their platform, and when they were on the floor of the Democratic Convention in 2012, they had to try to put God back into the platform. There were a lot of boos against putting God back into the Democratic platform. You need to know that. And a lot of those boos came from Muslims wearing Democratic Muslim t-shirts. And let's see, the GOP, I implore you to do not abandon social conservative issues unless you are fine with being viewed as unrighteous by the electorate with whom you say you wish to reconnect. And for the record, I do support civil unions, but marriage is indeed between one man and one woman. See, that's where I'm at, too. You know, I want to move off these social issues as fast as we can. I don't think they're helping the party at all, but you know, you listen to Alan West here and he makes a lot of sense. Flyover country, where the majority of the votes are, they do believe in more of these moral issues, these social issues. And if nothing else, it's something to consider, and at least those of us who are agnostic ought at least be respectful of other people's beliefs. So anyway, I thought that brought an interesting perspective that not all blacks are the same carbon copy. Carbon copy, God, that's getting dated. Not all the same email. All blacks aren't the same email. Doesn't have the same resonance, does it? Interesting story here. This comes from the Red Flag News. I like these guys. They're interesting. Guys and girls. Headline here. Senior Obama official says Jewish reporter beheading is reminder of accountability in cycle of violence. Whatever that means. And that's a quote by Samantha, what is her name? Samantha Powers. So it makes you wonder, says this article, WTH was Obama UN Ambassador Samantha Powers thinking when she posted this on Twitter. And she says, this is Samantha Powers. Remember, this is our ambassador to the United Nations. And by the way, she's kind of hot. And her husband is... Samantha Powers' husband is, God, I can't think of his name right now. Well, hopefully I remember. It doesn't really matter. At any rate, back to Samantha Power here, and here's her Twitter. She says, Daniel Pearl's story is a reminder that individual accountability and reconciliation are required to break cycles of violence. And Daniel Pearl was a reporter for, I'm trying to remember who he worked for, and he lost his head. Someone cut off his head. I think he was a reporter for AP Records. I mean, one of the big ones. So Pearl was beheaded, and his murder says something about reconciliation and breaking cycles of violence. What part of cycle of violence was the Jewish reporter responsible for? Is this just another of Power's jabs at Israel? This was one bizarre tweet Crackpot Powers needs to explain. I agree. I mean, you got to be real careful using one of your fellow Americans beheading as a subject line of your point. But I do like Samantha Powers, and I still can't think of her husband's name. He was head of all the. He was the czar of regulation. I guess that's what he was. He was the head of regulation, the czar of regulation, and he was instrumental in implementing more regulatory reforms, more regulatory rules than any other person in the history of the United States. And not only were there more in number in regulations, but in depth and breadth. I mean, his idea was that people were to work as hard as they could in their various agencies to grab up as much power and authority that would be offered to them in statute. Wherever it said in statute that rules could be promulgated by various regulatory agencies, his message to them was to push as far as you can and don't even worry about legal challenges. You can handle those down the road. That's part of the means justifying the ends. You're better off to go ahead and pass regulations that are far beyond the legislative intent and have who the regulated have to go to the courts to try to get you to dial that back. I mean, that's exactly how regulation was handled under the Obama administration. And I'll be damned if I can't think of that guy's name. But I do have a little crush on his wife, Samantha Powers. Okay, here is Robert Reich. Robert Reich. And Robert Reich is an economist back east. He's a mouthpiece for the progressive socialist statist movement. And I actually think he's making a good point here. So not everything that Robert Reich says makes the Trailer Park Prophet want to regurgitate. But I should probably remind you that I am Daniel Gray, and this is the Trailer Park Prophet Show, and we're broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. Oh my. And it just occurred to me I actually shut down my studio tab, which isn't too smart, because I looked up there and I wanted to see if I have any callers, and it looks like I don't. I just love Blog Talk Radio, man. They are just so cool. They do such a good job. See, now I'm back on my studio line and I can see if I've had any callers. And again, if you'd like to call to the program, you can do that by 646, dialing 646-716-8506. Again, you can contact the Prophet by dialing 646-716-8506. Ba-da-da-da. Oh, okay. Moving on. So yeah, right. Back to Robert Reich. He writes here, he says, in less than 20 hours, we've got over 5,200 signatures on our petition to raise the minimum wage to $15. Remember, the president wants to raise the minimum wage from $7.50 to $10.10. But Robert Reich wants to see it raised to $15. Keep them coming, says Robert Reich. Meanwhile, here's something else for you to consider. As a complement to an increased minimum wage, enlarging and expanding the earned income tax credit. Don't let your eyes glaze over. The title is sleep-inducing, but the earned income tax credit is hugely important for low-wage workers. It's a wage subsidy. I didn't know that's what this was. I've heard of the earned income tax credit, but I didn't realize it actually gave you money. It's a wage subsidy, in other words. I didn't know that. For a tax year 2013, a family with one child can receive up to $3,250 if its income is between roughly $11,000 and $18,000. Now, the minimum income for a family of two with one child, I believe, is around $35,000, but I stand to be corrected. Might be $40,000. The subsidy gradually shrinks as income rise and disappears entirely for a family with one child and an income of around $37,000. Families, that would be the medium income, I think, $37,000. So I was pretty close. See, being a prophet has its benefits. Families with more than one child can receive more. Families with no children, far less. A bigger EITC, which is the minimum, what did I say it was? The earned income tax credit with a higher phase out would be a huge boom. It says boon, but it should be boom, to America's working poor. And it might even garner some Republican support. The EITC is the only major program for the poor that attracts a few conservatives, presumably because it was the brainchild of conservative economist Milton Friedman. What do you think? Well, I'll tell you. And Robert Reich he's forgetting that we had this same proposal brought to us here a while back, remember? Do away with food stamps. Do away with a bunch of other programs like, I'm trying to think. Do away with food stamps. Do away with daycare. Do away with preschool. Do away with, what do you call it? All the Section 8 money. Do away with, you could probably do away with 15 federal agencies that provide some sort of income or help to poor people. Just do away with all those programs and go to a earned income tax credit program, but alleviate all the other programs. That's what I say we should do, and what we've talked about before. And I'm not quite sure that's a Milton Friedman idea. It may have been one that he embraced, but regardless, I think it's a great idea. But you got to get rid of everything else. Get rid of the bureaucrats, because most of the cost of these government giveaway programs is the cost of people. People in any enterprise is your most expensive line item. I mean, it'd be great, if you could just plug in the numbers and you get a check and not have to pay for all those jobs and offices and cars and computers. I'm all for it, but that's not what Robert Reich is thinking about. I can promise you that. All right, this is a pretty interesting article, I thought. You know, I get sad that we have to do articles and stories about
The Israeli
Israel.
Prime Minister expresses concern over the progress of nuclear talks between Iran and the P5+1 countries. Benjamin Netanyahu also said at a cabinet meeting that Iran was getting everything, or virtually giving nothing in talks. Netanyahu once again accused Tehran of trying to develop nuclear weapons and intercontinental missiles. The Israeli premier is expected to raise the issue in his meeting with visiting German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The accusations come as Israel is widely believed to be the sole possessor of nukes in the Middle East, with as many as 400 nuclear warheads. Let's speak to James Morris now. He's a political commentator and joining us from studios in Los Angeles. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Mr. Morris. Now, concern being expressed by the Israeli Prime Minister, the sole possessor of nukes in the Middle East, and not in compliance with any of the international treaties banning the use and proliferation of nuclear weapons. What do you make of it?
First, thanks for having me back on Press TV. I think that it's hypocritical of Benjamin Netanyahu. It's a blatant double standard on behalf of the U.S. government to basically go after Iran's peaceful nuclear program. You can read Gareth Porter's book, Manufactured Crisis, and he clearly conveys in that book that it is a manufactured crisis about Iran's supposed nuclear weapons. Like I said, with the double standard that we have with Benjamin Netanyahu, he just wants to reign supreme over the Middle East. He doesn't want Iran to be able to even defend itself. I believe his latest comments are going after the Iranian missile program as well. I mean, does he really think that Iran is going to be there without any kind of defense at all, including its missiles that he's going after? Well, you have not only this, but you have Israel, who actually threatened not only the Middle East, but how many wars has Israel started in the Middle East, Lebanon, Gaza, Palestine, over and over. In the last several hundred years, how many wars has Iran even started? And we see Netanyahu basically, there's an Israeli military historian, Martin van Crefeld, who had even threatened Europe with Israeli nukes. And you have Seymour Hersh, who had written a book titled The Samson Option, where Israel was going to light up its nuclear program during the 1973 Yom Kippur War with Egypt. So I think that the real threat to world peace is Israel. And unless we address that, we could be on the brink of the next world war. Let's get back to what this agenda is really all about, as I've mentioned before on Press TV.
Can you believe that? That's outrageous what this guy's saying. That Israel hasn't been starting any wars. I mean, Israel is always the one that's attacked. Either by Jordan, either by Egypt and Syria. They were attacked in the 68 war. Israel was attacked in the 68 war and the 72 war. And Israel is constantly attacked by Palestine, by Hamas. I mean, this guy is so full of metabolic waste. I mean, he has a lot of nerve to say such a thing. But you know what? This is the narrative I've been reading in everything that I get from the Middle East. And this guy is talking the exact talking points that I've been reading on, I don't know, all the articles I've been reading about in the Middle East over the last, 6 months. It's just amazing what people will say. And people, some people, the low information people, the people on the Barak Borg, they hear this and they believe this. I mean, this is like red meat. All right, continue, Skippy.
You go back to the Israeli Likudnik Oded Yanon strategy for Israel in the 1980s. That's what the Israel lobby in the U.S., the neoconservatives, AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, the Brookings Institute, and the rest of the Israel lobby through its shills like John McCain, even John Kerry, who's pushing military action against Syria, which is in accordance with this Israeli Likudnik plan. You can read about it in good friend Steve Stogowski's The Transparent Cabal book. So it's not really the nuclear issue that we're talking about here. That's the pretext. We know Iran never threatened to wipe Israel off the map. That was also Zionist propaganda. What they'd said is if Israel continued to...
It's everywhere!
Like it does on Palestinian land, that regime, the Zionist regime in Israel...
Now that's total BS. Bruce Springsteen. There are countless quotes by Iranian leaders that they would want Iran or would want Israel wiped off the map. And not only from Iran, but from the Muslim Brotherhood, from Hamas, from Hezbollah. I mean, what a liar. And again, this is coming from Press TV. I didn't even realize what I had here. This is a political analysis, says Israel poses a real threat to world peace, adding that the international community must deal with the menace before the outbreak of the Third World War. And see, that's the other thing. You caught that, didn't you? They're basically saber rattling. They're taunting Israel. They're taunting anybody that thinks any different than what this guy's thinking, and that is that, you know, we're ready to go to war. And this was an interview with Press TV on Sunday. This guy's name we've been listening to is James Morris, a U.S.-based commentator that said Tel Aviv threatens both the region and the entire world, stressing how many wars has Israel started. Okay, so let's go back to this. This is interesting. The old prophet is interested. And by the way, you're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet. My name's Daniel Gray. I am your host du jour. We're broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. This is Sunday on Monday, and we stumbled into a story that was on the web and the rest of the media in the Middle East yesterday. So we really are doing a little bit of Sunday on Monday. See, I mean, when you're the Trailer Park Prophet, these stories, they just come to you.
Would be wiped from the pages of history. Iran never threatened to wipe Israel off the map. In fact, there was a 60 Minutes segment that was conveniently edited, Zionist media here in America, CBS 60 Minutes, where the Iranian President Ahmadinejad had actually even said that a referendum should be taken after the Palestinians are allowed to go back to Israel after they were displaced when Israel was created. So this is just all Zionist propaganda for another war for Israel in the Middle East like Iraq was, and we really have to wake up to it. There's posts about it at my ushijack.com blog if you'd like to take a look.
Indeed, Mr. Morris, let me just interrupt you there. We're quickly running out of time. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu was expected to raise his concerns about the progress of the nuclear talks with his meeting with the German Chancellor. Now, let's not forget, Germany is part of the P5+1 group of countries. What kind of pressures do you think Germany will have on it when it does sit on the negotiating table next time with Iran?
Well, the problem you have in Europe as well is you've got the Transatlantic Institute, which is the AIPAC, or the Israel Lobby for the Europe. You've got the Transatlantic Institute, which is the AIPAC, or the Israel Lobby for the European Union. So that's why you see all these sanctions being passed by the European Union. It was set up, the Transatlantic Institute, you can Google it, was set up by the American Jewish Congress. But of course, American media never talks about that. They never talk about the Israel lobby encouraging the Syrian civil war, and that's to cut off Hezbollah in Lebanon, and this whole agenda, not only cutting off Hezbollah in Lebanon via Syria, but also cutting off support to the Palestinians so the Israelis can eventually transfer them all into Jordan. That's what it's all about. It's not the nuclear issue. That's just a pretext.
Okay, so it's political commentator James Morris. They're joining us from Los Angeles. Mr. Morris, as always, it's a pleasure having you with us here on Press TV.
So I'm trying to figure out who these people are. They're obviously pro-Iran. And it's hard to really know. I mean, they have a very professional-looking website. Other stories that are trending on this Press TV. We got Syrian army continues mop-up operations. What the hell is this? And did you notice that guy blamed Israel for the civil war going on in Syria?
The Syrian army continues its battle against foreign-backed insurgents across the country. Army officials say that government troops have killed dozens of militants in the fresh clashes. Army units managed to repel an attack against a number of villages in the Homs countryside. Several militants were killed.
Now, again, this is a story from Syria, and I'm looking here. Yeah, It's dated today, so this might be a current story. Let's go ahead and listen to this. This is kind of interesting. I mean, I was thinking recently when I'm over the weekend about, what to do on the show. I'm always thinking about what to do on the show. And have you noticed that there's not a lot of stories out there about what's going on in Syria? I mean, we've been talking about the Ukraine. By the way, we do no stories about Ukraine, although everyone's talking about it. All right, let's go ahead and listen to this. This is about Syria.
The vehicles and ammunition were destroyed in the fighting. Similar clashes took place in the provinces of Aleppo, Hama, and Daraa. Meanwhile, militants say airstrikes by government forces have killed 18 people, including civilians, across the country. This is government sources say at least 8 civilians were injured by insurgent mortar attacks in residential areas on the outskirts of Damascus.
This is kind of interesting. Another headline, Turkish PM targeted in phone tapping. I wonder who's responsible for that. These are kind of cool. Let's listen to this. I like this, man. They post really fast. And, of course, then this one doesn't post. Oh, read more. I screwed up. So, headline, Turkish police eavesdrop on Erdogan calls. Erdogan is the president of Turkey. All right, now this isn't a video, but that kind of gives you an idea what's in here. Morsi gave state secrets to Iran. Morsi was the Egyptian prime minister that...
An Egyptian prosecutor claims ousted President Mohamed Morsi gave state secrets to Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, or the IRGC. Tamir al-Firgani says Morsi and 35 other Muslim Brotherhood members, along with his aides, had revealed such secrets. These include passing national defense secrets to Iran, Lebanon, and Palestinians. If convicted, Morsi could face capital punishment. He is already charged with causing the killing of protesters near the presidential palace in 2012. Last Tuesday, Morsi appeared in court over his escape from prison in 2011. Egypt's military ousted Morsi last July, sparking deadly protests across the country ever since. Let's speak to Mohammed Chalabi, our correspondent in Cairo, who now joins us via Skype. Now, Mohammed, it seems that the government is trying to put as many charges against Morsi in order to ensure that he is convicted and put behind bars, no matter come what may. Tell us a bit more about what's going on there.
Yes, Kenny's. I mean, some observers here in Egypt have likened the accusations leveled against Morsi and the Brotherhood in that so-called espionage case to science fiction, really. I mean, many observers believe that this trial and the other trials Morsi is facing is an attempt by the military-backed government to frame the Muslim Brotherhood, for recent and for even historic acts of violence in the country, and try and strip Morsi from legitimacy and delay any potential return of the Brotherhood to the political scene by disfiguring the image of the group and its reputation. The Brotherhood has been, Kenny's, believe it or not, accused for things like recent recurring power outages, shortage in fuel products via its sales that it allegedly has in the electricity or petroleum ministry, the weakness of the Egyptian pound vis-a-vis the US dollar, via brokers and so on, and the ongoing strikes that have just hit, just about every sector in the country, asking for better financial pay. So having said that, a lot of Egyptians believe that Morsi's every move, every visit he made, or everyone he received while in office has been translated somehow into a so-called act of treason. And they wonder what was the role of the president, and what was he supposed to do as a president if he wasn't going to, be in contact with the outside world. Many ordinary Egyptians today, listening to the accusations via their TV sets, were murmuring words like, who's that Superman, that collaborated with Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Turkey, Qatar, the US, and Israel, all at the same time, remembering that the main trend among the anti-Brotherhood camp here in Egypt is that Morsi and the Brotherhood were so-called agents of the US and Israel. So they say, logic dictates that you cannot, for instance, cooperate with Iran while you cooperate with Qatar the US and Israel at the same time, and Fatah being the known backers of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And they add that the Superman must have tricked, everyone if these hypothetical alleged charges are true. And many observers also express their belief that such accusations are aimed at satisfying the sole financial supporters of the military-backed government here in Egypt in the form of the rich Persian Gulf states like the Saudis or the Emiratis, and to satisfy the US and Israel also along the way, the latter Tel Aviv being one of the few public supporters of the coup in Egypt. And some observers and ordinary Egyptians also finally can you say they argue that if these accusations were hypothetically true and they date back to some 10 years ago or something, then where was Mubarak and his intelligence apparatus, noting that the people of Egypt who overthrew Mubarak
See, this guy's stalling.
Was a strategic fortune for Israel, and the Israelis themselves.
He's filibustering.
And they also say.
All right, we got to cut that. All right, okay. Now this was very insightful. I'm glad I ran into this website, mainly because this is a big issue. It's a big issue that Morsi, who was backed by the United States, is now behind bars and being prosecuted by his own people. That's a big story. And the even bigger story is the press in the United States is not covering this story. And if the press had any kind of interest or curiosity about the body politic in the generic sense, they would be involved with this story. They would know about this story. Because this story doesn't tell us what the charges are. And we've done several stories on the Trailer Park Prophet, and we've cited the exact charges in this case against President Morsi, who was backed by the Muslim Brotherhood. And they're bribery charges, and there's charges in there that are connected to U.S. authorities. And granted, we don't know the definitive makeup of these charges, but this just goes again, in case you were wondering whether or not this was really a true story, this gives us a little more insight into what's going on in Egypt. But to the rank and file members of the Barak Borg, they don't know this. So, press, I want to be friends with these people. Let's see, they say that fresh clashes with 4 dead. What else is going on here? Egyptian army-backed government resigns. What? Militant kills 3 in northern Nigeria. So this is a good source because we don't get very much information out of Nigeria. What is this? If this... Okay, now this is Monday.
Egypt's military-backed government has resigned amid the country's growing economic problems. Prime Minister Hassan.
Now hang on here. I'm not used to this website. Man, they go right to the video. Okay, the headline is Egyptian military-backed government resigns. Now, if this is true, this is breaking news. And this was released GMT time at 1:50 p.m. And I'll read the headline and then we'll go right to the video, which is 5 minutes, 26 seconds. It says, Egypt's military-backed government has resigned amid the country's growing economic problems in a presidential poll that will likely bring Army Chief Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to power. The cabinet of Egyptian Prime Minister Hassan el-Bilbla'i announced the decision on Monday. Now here's a quote. The cabinet decided in light of the current situation that the country is going through to submit its resignation to Abli Mansour, the interim president, and the cabinet said ongoing housing minister Ibrahim Milhab is expected to succeed Bib Olanhi as the new prime minister. So, all right, so this is breaking news. This is really a big deal. In case you're of need of a little remedial education, here recently, the United States and the CIA and the FBI and the AFL-CIO and the SEIU union helped overthrow Mosni Mubarak, who was the prime minister or president of Egypt, and then they had an election, and Mohammed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood got elected president of Egypt. And then after a year of rule by the Muslim Brotherhood, there was a popular uprising, and Morsi got overthrown, and of course is on trial. And now we're finding out that the government that overthrew Morsi, the Sisi government, has resigned. So this is pretty cool, my fellow lovers of liberty. We have breaking news. Okay, so now we're going to go back to this video that I got from Oppress TV, which I'm really starting to dig. All right, so take it away. Welcome to the Trailer Park Profit Show.
Al-Bladwin announced the decision in a televised statement. The outgoing housing minister, Ibrahim Nehlid, is expected to succeed him. The surprise resignation comes amid rising pressure over the government's handling of the economy. The military-backed government was sworn in on July the 16th following a military coup that toppled President Mohammed Morsi. Morsi's ouster sparked violent protests in which hundreds of Egyptians were killed. Well, to discuss that a bit further, I'm joined with Mohammed Chalabi, Press TV's correspondent, who's joining us live now from the Egyptian capital. Mohammed, are we understanding any reasons for why Hazem al-Bladwin has resigned?
Well, Karl, it's a bit confusing and surprising, as you mentioned. And let me just tell you about what people here in Egypt are saying. Mixed reactions, really, as to whether this as to the significance of this resignation, the meaning of this resignation, and the effect on the struggle for power here, in Egypt, and the future of this country, which is really suffering economically, socially, and security-wise, along with the political crisis. Now, some observers indicate that what happened is a victory for the anti-coup camp in Egypt, indicating that the failure of the military-backed regime to quell rising anti-regime protests, despite the unprecedented security and legal crackdown that has left thousands, mostly Brotherhood supporters, killed, injured, arrested, or indicted for their role in their mostly peaceful protests, is the reason behind this. And they say this indicates that the military-backed regime has failed, and that any military leadership cannot lead this country. And there are also questions, according to this theory, as to the fate of the ministers involved in the killing incidents, for instance, or face charges of fraud, or the fate of the interim government's decision to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a so-called terrorist organization. Now, others say that what happened is proof that Egypt cannot work while excluding a key faction like the Brotherhood and a wider range of Islamic extreme forces and even some liberal ones, just like Egypt couldn't move forward with the sole leadership of the Brotherhood during the era of army overthrown President Mohammed Morsi. And they say that this is another proof that concessions from all sides and reconciliation is the only way forward in Egypt, while others say that what is happening really is a bluff to quiet things down and rest it.
Oh, what happened? All right, sorry I killed that story. At any rate, you know, big news story from Egypt that President Sisi has stepped down. Breaking news here at the Trailer Park Profit Show. Darn, I was going to move on to another story. I like this website. I shared it, so I hope I'll be able to find it again. I want to be friends with these guys. I have a good feeling about this. I mean, there's not a lot of really good information out of the Middle East. I don't think there really is. So I'm going to the Oppress TV Facebook page, and I guess I just like them. And I want to follow them. I think I want to follow them. So yeah, cool. Well, See, we're just expanding the mission of the Trailer Park Profit Show. How cool is that? Oh, okay, now you're going to get, see, now you're going to get rewarded for hanging in there with me. And I know we're being kind of wonky here, but politics is cool. It's really, it's so much more fun. You want to think of wonky, think of all the wonky people have in regards to sports, you know, doing all those virtual games and all that. I mean, talk about wonky, but you can be wonky with politics and world events, and you learn something. God, I mean, it's worth something. I mean, who cares what some professional athlete does in a contest? I mean, if it's not you, why do you care? I mean, politics is you. These people represent you. Those athletes and celebrities, they don't represent you. They don't do anything for you other than entertain yourself. Why not entertain yourself getting involved in politics, and then you can have a say and you know something. Okay, here's a headline. And you can do your own research. You know, don't take my word for anything. I got this from Smoking Gun. But this is a theme with the Trailer Park Prophet, because I can guarantee you we have an epidemic of sexual assaults by our public school teachers in America. I promise you that. And here's an article here from the Smoking Gun. Teacher faces axe over naked kids having sex. Kindergartens, both 5 were found inside school bathroom on February 24th. I guess this was, okay, the story is a veteran New Jersey teacher could be fired from her job after discovering 2 naked kindergarten students having sex inside a school bathroom. Now, we have to go into Bill Clinton territory and say, was it really having sex? Or what is the definition of it? Alright, the teacher is Kelly Masco. She's 43, is facing termination in connection with the incident late last year at the Malinka Township Elementary School in southern New Jersey. Mascio, who has taught for more than 15 years, is suspended with pay while a disciplinary process continues. As detailed in the Malinka Township Police Department report, 2 of Mascio's students, both 5 years old, went into a classroom bathroom and removed their clothes. When Mascio pictured it right, subsequently discovered the children, a boy and a girl. They told her they were having sex, cops noted. Well, they could have seen it on TV, or it could have been in one of their books. Mascio, who immediately reported the incident to the school principal, was suspended for allegedly failing to properly monitor the children. I mean, come on. A related police investigation concluded with no criminal charges being filed. I mean, now we want to... Oh, man, this is unbelievable. And it goes into if they actually filed charges against Mascio here. She could be... You know, really? I don't know how many kids Mrs. Mascio had in her class, but if she had over 4, God knows, I mean, or 10... I mean, kids are running around everywhere. I mean, they don't even know where they're going to be running to next. And to have 2 kids, I don't know. You know, they said that they didn't have clothes on. They're having sex. Was there penetration? Were really all their clothes off? Were their shoes off? Were there body fluids? Was there a rape test? or rape kit, rape test, whatever you call it. I'm assuming they did that. I mean, this could totally be a bogus story. But I'm happy, I'm relieved. I can't tell you how relieved I am that it was 2 kids, because the story, I think, makes you think that this teacher was having sex with these kids, and that's not at all what happened. Nothing like that at all happened. I mean, here's the headline. Teacher faces axe over naked kids having sex. I mean, alright, so I got suckered in. I'm on the website here. I looked at their, well, smoking gun. Another story they have, from smiles to sads in the latest mug roundup. Another story, document K-12 revolting. Oh, here, cops. Teacher made boy 10 clean urinal. Most popular, document. Teacher faces axe over okay, we did that story. Alright, here's another story. Gun enthusiast Ted Nugent was anxious to bear arms against those pesky Viet Cong. That's interesting. Naked woman goes on bloody rampage after boyfriend refuses to have sex. I got to get on this website too. And their 5th story that's trending right now is couple avoids jail over jury questionnaire. And it has a where you can write in, and this one guy, Sheen O'Neill, says, I done stuff like this all the time when I was 6 or 7 with the neighborhood girls. I got caught one time and had my backside tanned by my mother, but I kept it up for a few years, and it turned out to be a fine upstanding citizen. It's called experimenting, and we just about all do it, and the only difference is these kids got caught. Now that's a good point, man. I know I did stuff like that, not in the bathroom of the school, but like in forts, and girls would make little palaces and they invite you, and I remember seeing some things I never seen in real before under those situations, being a little kid. So he's making a good point. Now here's the question we all should be asking ourselves. What's going to come of this story or this scenario? Now, if one of these kids is seen as a menace to society by the forces that be the government, then we have a real problem. I got a feeling that's the way we're headed. Someone's going to be the victim here in these situations, and somebody's going to be the villain, and somehow the villain is inspired by the conservatives and President Bush. You just watch. Now this other guy, now let's see what website we're on again. I like these guys. Now I want to like these guys too. Oh, the Smoking Gun. And they got home documents, Buster, backstage, mug shots, and time waster. So these guys, I'm going to like them. And then we're connected, right? And then I'll post it to Facebook. And then I think we're friends forever and ever. I want to do another story from these guys. Well, wait, I better make sure. Yeah, no, we got to move on. I mean, this is fun, but I'm glad I'm friends with them. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I post them to Facebook, because, this will be fun, right? And part of my job is as a citizen journalist, as your citizen journalist, is finding good stories to report to you, because you're busy with your job, with your children, with your career. You might be writing a book or a movie. God knows what you're doing, but I know you're busy. Busy, busy, busy. Okay, we're on the half hour. You're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet, Daniel Gray, broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful, fabulous. I'm so glad I'm here. Thank you, Fred, Crestone, Colorado. And it's warm. I got my door open. My fellow lovers of liberty, I got my door open. Okay. This story comes from Right Wing News. And it's got a picture of a white guy on the article, and he's tattooed around his eyes and all over his nose and mouth and cheeks, and he looks like a freak. And I didn't see a headline. Okay, headline is GOP lawmaker presses DOJ about court decision allowing illegal alien gang members to stay in the U.S. And this story has been all over the internet. Now, why in the hell would you let known gang offenders, I mean, these are gang members from Mexico that are in the country illegally, and they commit gang-related felonies in America as illegals. Why would you allow them to stay? Says here's an interesting case. According to court documents, an illegal immigrant from El Salvador was busted for marijuana possession in 2006 because the car he was driving belonged to a friend, had a malfunctioning brake light, a blunt was found in the vehicle, and the immigrant received probation. Meanwhile, the federal government began proceedings to deport him. The immigrant, Julio Martinez, agreed to work as a confidential informant for the United States government, and deportation proceedings were dropped until 2011 when he was busted for a traffic violation. At that time, court documents show it was decided he was of no more use to the federal government, and deportation proceedings resumed. Do you realize how much this is costing us? For all these court proceedings and all the employees, the judges and the lawyers. I mean, this is ridiculous. Which brings us to the January 23rd, 2014 court decision that allows the former gang member who came to this country illegally 14 years ago to stay under the banner of asylum. You know, like somebody that lives in a foreign country and there's a political party that wants to kill them. That's what we have asylum for. There has to be political oppression. I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, like South Vietnam. The Vietnamese has supported the U.S. government. All right. They needed asylum. Or better yet, you know who needs asylum? Are the people in Afghanistan and Iraq who helped the U.S. guarantee equal rights for women, children, and girls. That's who needs political asylum. Not some freaking gang member, some gangbanger, some drug dealer. This is ridiculous. This is insane. If this doesn't piss you off, you're a waste of your liberty, our liberty. Okay. Okay, now 2 Republican members of the House are taking issue with the decision. Thank God. In testimony provided during the deportation proceedings, Martinez said he joined a local gang as a youth, but left after things became too violent. He also says he was nearly killed 3 times for leaving the gang, once by being beaten and stabbed, and twice when he was shot at. 2 of these times claims Martinez he was hospitalized. Well, you know, I want proof of all that. I'm not sure that changes things if everything he says is true either. And I don't think all of this is true. Then if that's the case, then he'd be safer in Mexico. You know? If you want to get down to it, why keep him here in the US? I mean, if he's going to get punished for leaving the gang, then we need to get him the hell out of the US. That's the way I look at it. After reading much of the court's documentation, it looks like the court gave asylum because Martinez met the multiple standards requirement to grant it, including the alleged immutable characteristic of being a former gang member and fearing for his life if he was returned to El Salvador. And on human and Christian level, asylum appears to be the right choice, especially since the Bush administration, blaming on the Bush administration, decided to use Martinez in exchange for dropping deportation proceedings. But the question and the bigger story is, how often are illegals being granted political asylum? That's the big question. And this article doesn't go into that. We want to know the numbers. And we have a actual quote from Goodlath and Forbes. Those are some other contributing sources to this article. But that's the bigger question. And I'm trying to see, you know, if there's any relation. But, you know, a lot of these kids here, are involved with MS-13, which is a criminal enterprise. I don't know. All I know is that there are a lot of reports on the internet from blogs. And basically they're saying that illegal alien gang members are being allowed to stay in the United States by the Department of Justice. Alright, are we on the break? Okay, I think we already did the break. We got plenty of time. I can't believe it. I'm going to be able to do this story. I didn't think I was going to be able to do this story, but this is like totally cool. Now, Chris Mathews, in case you don't know, is a reporter, talking head on MSNBC and NBC. And Chris Mathews is famous for saying that when he looked at President Obama, he got a tingle down his leg. So, needless to say, Chris Mathews is a progressive socialist statist. And I got a video here from Herman Cain. According to Chris Mathews, American people love Obamacare, love their president, and credit the Democrats with our glorious economic turnaround. If all of that is true, why is Tingles so worried about the midterms? I don't know, Herman. Why don't you tell us? And I got a feeling Herman Cain is going to tell us why Chris Mathews isn't having tingles down his leg about the upcoming 2012 election. Now, let's see what we got here from Herman Cain. He usually has this stuff from the cloud. But this is going to be a video off YouTube. I love Herman Cain. You know, if you ever see Herman Cain in an interview, the interviewer asks Herman Cain a question, he instinctively repeats the question and then states his answer. And it's an answer. You know, because a question, generally, there's 2 sides. And normally, political actors will dance on the fence and try to give homage to both sides, which is tedious. but not Herman Cain. So anyway, let's see. Let's listen to this video. This is Chris Mathews on Meet the Press yesterday. Take it away, Chris Mathews. And Chris has been on the Trailer Park Profit Show. Well, if you haven't, Chris Mathews, thanks again for being on the Trailer Park Profit Show. Chris Mathews on Meet the Press.
By the way, it used to be that the parties would help each other to make up for each other's differences. Now they accentuate each other. To the Democrats, this election, a rosy scenario is to lose 5 Senate seats, not 6. They could lose 10. And so what they've said is, we're going to lose 10 seats potentially, and they could well do that. A big sweep. They're going to their battle stations. Nothing on Social Security. All out talk about minimum wage. Nothing on trade. David's dead right. Nothing's...
Oh, okay. So... That's interesting, you know, because what Chris Mathews just said is that the Democrats are going to lose at least 7 U.S. Senate seats. And I can't remember what the... Oh, and that would give them the majority. Oh, that... And as many as 10 seats. Chris Mathews just told us that there could be a huge takeover of the U.S. Senate by Republicans. Oh my God. Wait, let's listen to that again. Now remember, the U.S. Senate has 100 seats. And right now, there's 55 Democrats and 45 Republicans. All right? So just think of the numbers. To get the majority in 2014, what do you have to do? And here's Chris Mathews from MSNBC, a political...
By the way, it used to be that the parties would help each other to make up for each other's differences. Now they accentuate each other. To the Democrats, this election, a rosy scenario is to lose 5 Senate seats, not 6. They could lose 10. And so what they've said is, we're going to lose 10 seats potentially, and they could well do that. A big sweep. They're going to their battle stations. Nothing on Social Security. All out talk about minimum wage. Nothing on trade. David's dead right. Nothing's...
Oh my God, he just gave away the Democratic handbook. And we were talking about that, have been talking about the minimum wage narrative. Oh my God, well, and see why this is important. I mean, you got to look at Chris Mathews' demeanor, and you can go to my Facebook page and look at that. I mean, he's really confident in what he's saying, that it looks like a foregone conclusion that the Republicans are going to take over the U.S. Senate this election cycle. But, you know, he could be doing reverse psychology and be like, remember that guy, the pundit on Fox, has said that Mitt Romney was going to win the 2012 election for president? What was that guy's name? You know, I mean, and I could see Chris Mathews or somebody like him being diabolical and actually saying that, oh yeah, man, Democrats know it's over. The Republicans are going to take over the U.S. Senate. And then we all take a breath and relax and then decide not to vote, and we don't work as hard to get other people to go and vote, and you know, you lull yourself to sleep, kind of. I don't know. That's kind of cynical. But, you know, when you've been around this stuff for so long, it's hard. It's hard not to be cynical. All right, let's go back to my studio at Blog Talk Radio. We're pretty close to the break. We only have 15 minutes of broadcast excellence to go here at the Trailer Park Profit Show, being hosted by Daniel Gray. Thank you very much. This is Sunday on Monday, where we try to recap some of the most important events that were discussed on the Sunday talk programs. Sunday on Monday. I like the title. It's kind of catchy. And by the way, in case I forget, when it's time to leave you all, we're going to talk about Islam and Muhammad on Hump Day with the Prophet. So you can look forward to that. And I needed to say that so I can remind myself to work extra hard to bring you an even better show. So anyways, we don't have any callers. If you'd like to call the program, you can do so by dialing 646-716-8506. Thank you mucho much. All right, let's go back to next story. I think this is, I love this story. And this is our final story, and we can call it quits after this story. I got this from Political headline. NAACP wants Rand Paul to speak. And in case you don't know what capital NAACP means, it means the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, again, have invited Rand Paul to speak. Now, I think this is so cool, and I know I dog the NAACP from time to time. I point out their hypocrisy, but, you know, Rand Paul, in case you don't know, is a big-time conservative. He's a Tea Party conservative. He's elected to the U.S. Senate that we were just talking about from South Carolina, I believe. And we might have some video. I'm not really quite sure what we got going here. At any rate, it's from Politico, Politico. And it says the NAACP has offered Republican Senator Rand Paul the opportunity to speak to the organization with the intent, or the interim president saying, we would love to have him. In an interview taped for C-SPAN's Newsmakers that will air Sunday, Lorraine Miller said she was interested in hearing about more about the economic freedom zone that Kentucky senator has pushed. Now, the economic freedom zones are nothing more than an enterprise zone where the local, state, special interest, and federal taxing agencies decide to reduce their taxing percentage to help encourage some economic development. Funny how you have to get government to back off in order to allow for some economic private activity, isn't it? And people say that government intrusion through taxation or regulation isn't a burden on business. I mean, you know, here's a perfect example. They're admitting it's a burden because they have to come up with economic freedom zones. God, it's crazy. We need economic freedom from the government. That's nuts. And did you see that thing I thought was pretty weird too? Someone does this every year, and what they do is they analyze the 160 or so countries we have in the world, or is it 260? I'm so embarrassed, I don't know. And they rank which ones have the most freedom of speech. Out of the 160 countries, where do you think the USA is? Out of 160 countries, or out of all the countries in the United States, where do you think the United States would rank as far as freedom of the speech? And I'll tell you, it's 43. We're ranked 43. Anyways, back to this story. And this is the spokesperson for the NAACP says, we'd love to talk to him about it and work with him, said Miller, adding that her comments amounted to an invitation of Paul to address the group. I'm so excited about this. A top Paul aide said the senator is game. So this is pretty public. I bet the NAACP backs out. All right, here's another pull quote. Senator Paul is pleased to hear that the NAACP would like to work with him on reforms like economic freedom zones, and he would be honored to address the organization. Doug Stanford, a senior advisor to Paul, said, I would like to see the NAACP invite Senator Scott from North or South Carolina, who is the only black serving in our U.S. Senate. But unfortunately, he's a conservative Republican. Why don't they invite Senator Scott? And Rand Paul hopes that African Americans will see this. It's clear, it's evident, and so you vote for who you support. You and we haven't seen a lot of support for the Republican Party. All right, enough of that. Enough of that, prophet. All right, moving on. No, but I think that's absolutely positively wonderful for the NAACP to invite conservatives. But I'm telling you, I'm 100% right. They should invite, the NAACP should invite Senator Scott, U.S. Senator Scott, to speak at their next convention. Okay, 10 minutes. I want to do this. All right, kind of a health segment of the Trailer Park Prophet. The benefits of hydrogen peroxide. Oh, hydrogen peroxide. You do so many things, and you deserve more attention. Here's a list of the many benefits of hydrogen peroxide. Take 1 capful, the little white cap that comes with the bottle, and hold in your mouth for 10 minutes daily, then spit it out. No more canker sores, and your teeth will be whiter without expensive paste. Use it instead of mouthwash. Small pint says mouthwash and gargle right on the bottle. Hydrogen peroxide. Number 2. Let your toothbrushes soak in a cup of peroxide to keep them free of germs. God, that's smart. Number 3, clean your counters with peroxide to kill germs and leave a fresh smell. Simply put a little on your dish rag when you wipe, or spray it on the counters. After rinsing off your wooden cutting board, pour peroxide on it to kill salmonella and other bacteria. Number 5. One man reports, that's so funny. Well, we got one report from a man, you know, they don't want to blame it on a woman. That's so cute. Number 5. One man reports, I had a fungus on my feet for years until I sprayed a 50-50 mixture of peroxide and water on them, especially the toes, every night and let them dry, all gone. God, that's a multi-million dollar business. You know, all of that toe fungus stuff and cream. Oh my God. That's going to wipe out a few millionaires. One man reports, if that's true. Number 6, soak any infections or cuts in 3% peroxide for 5 to 10 minutes several times a day. A nurse reports that she has seen gangrene that would not heal with any medicine but has healed by soaking in peroxide. One of my best friends, Senator Joe Winkler, he died. He was 74 years old, and he scraped the top of his hand on barbed wire. He was a rancher, and he didn't take care of it, and it ended up causing an infection and went all the way to his heart, and he died. So this is serious, particularly if you're older. Number 7, it says, fill a spray bottle with 50-50 mixture of peroxide and water and keep it in every bathroom to disinfect without harming your septic system like bleach or other disinfectants. Also, keep some peroxide in your vehicle in case there's an accident. Number 8, tilt your head back and spray in the nostrils with 50-50 mixture whenever you have a cold or plugged sinuses. It will bubble and help to kill the bacteria. Hold for a few minutes, then blow your nose into a tissue. How about that? Number 9, if you have a terrible toothache and cannot get to the dentist right away, put a capful of 3% peroxide into your mouth and hold it for 10 minutes several times a day. The pain will lessen greatly. I know that works. Number 10, if you would like a natural look in your hair, spray the 50-50 solution on your wet hair after a shower and comb it through. You will not have the peroxide burnt blonde hair like the hair dye packages, but more natural highlights if your hair is light brown, reddish, or dirty blonde. It also lightens gradually, so it's not a drastic change. Well, you know, I mean, that's good to know. Let's see how much time. I was going to tell you a joke. I better not. Put half of the bottle of peroxide in your bath to help rid boils, fungus, or other skin infections. Number 12, you can also add a cup of peroxide instead of bleach to a load of whites in your laundry to whiten them. If there are protein stains on the clothing, you know, like from fat or grease, pour it directly on the spot, let it sit for a minute, then rub it and rinse it with water. Repeat if necessary. How cool is that? You got to know that. Talk about bachelor arts degree. Bachelor survival techniques. Number 13, I use peroxide to clean my mirrors. Really? And there is no smearing, which is why I love it so much. So it's probably good on glass. I love clean glass. Like if you drive a beater, if you keep the glass clean, your beater looks like a dream. You can't believe the difference in the appearance of a car if the glass is clean, particularly if it's a beater. Number 14, use 3% hydrogen peroxide for removing blood stains. That's good to know, especially if they are fairly fresh. Pour directly on the soiled spot, let it sit for a minute, and then rub it and rinse it with cold water. Repeat if necessary. If it is, it is a great bleaching agent for stubborn stains on white clothes. Combine half of hydrogen peroxide and 1 T ammonia for a great stain removal combination. Removal. I like that. Removal. 15. Use hydrogen peroxide to bleach delicate items such as wool or wool blends. Soak them overnight in a solution of 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide to 8 parts of cold water. Launder accordingly to whatever care instructions might be on the tag. Also, if you have a dog that you need to get to vomit, well, this is good to know. Like if they ate a bunch of chocolate, make them swallow hydrogen peroxide. Give it to them a few teaspoons at a time. Hydrogen peroxide. So there you have it, my fellow lovers of liberty. Giving you more than just the news and current events. We're making you safer people. I might have one more story. Oh! I want you guys to check it out, and then we're going to leave with a hee-haw tribute to Archie Campbell. In Colorado, I'm actually from Littleton, Colorado, but there is a newspaper in Saguache County, and it's been there since 1917, and they were on 60 Minutes on Sunday, and it is the Combs family has been publishing the weekly Saguache Crescent filled with small-town news, and the last paper still produced with old-fashioned linotype. And you can go to my Facebook page and check it out. At any rate, I'm going to leave you with Archie Campbell and Hee Haw. See ya on Wednesday for Hump Day with the Prophet, and we're going to talk about Mohammed and Islam.
Well, pretty good, boy. Saturday again, here you are. Say hi to Grandpa and Strang and Junior there.
Oh, howdy, boys.
Purge's coming in, so they come down and got a front seat.
Yeah.
I guess you heard about the terrible misfortune. Yeah, my great uncle died.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good. How come? Well, when he died, he left me $50,000.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad.
How come?
Well, when the Internal Revenue got through with it, all I had left was $25,000.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good.
How come?
Well, I bought me an airplane and learned to fly.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad.
How come?
Well, I was flying upside down the other day and I fell out of the darn thing.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good.
How come?
Well, I looked down under me and there's a great big old haystack.
That's good.
No, that's bad.
How come?
Well, I got a little closer. I saw a pitchfork aimed right at me.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good.
How come?
I missed the pitchfork.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad.
How come?
I missed a haystack too.
10 seconds.
How come?
Well, I bounced around a few minutes. An ambulance came and took me to the hospital.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's bad.
How come?
Well, I was in the hospital there for a while, and I took a turn for the nurse.
That's bad.
No, that's good.
How come?
Well, my wife came in one day and caught me kissing this nurse.
Oh, that's bad.
No, that's good.
How come?
She said if that was the way I was going to act, I could have this pretty nurse. She's going to pack her clothes and go back home to Mama.
That's good.
You're darn right, that's good. You took off your peg leg, your wig, and your glass eye. You were surprised at the
Thank you
look
for
on
using
my
Blog
face.
Talk Radio.
I
Goodbye.
wanted to kiss and hug you, my darling, but you were scattered all over the place.
Where are you tonight?
Why did you leave
Me here all alone.
I searched the world
Over,
thought I found true love. You met another
and you was gone.
Arch, you know that youngest boy of mine.
Yeah, old Bolivar, the 5-year-old.
Yeah, well, he will be 5 come February.
Yeah.
You know that I can't get him to go to bed at night for nothing.
Is that right?
He'll just sit up half the night.
What do you got to tell him bedtime stories?
I've tried every one I ever heard.
Yeah, but you're telling the same old bedtime stories, just like we used to enjoy. You can't do that. You got to take these same stories and tell them backwards. You can get the kids' attention.
Tell them backwards.
Yeah. Like, for example, instead of Cinderella, you say Rendersella. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you the story of Cinderella. You learn this, and then you tell it to your kid, all right?
All right.
And once upon a time, in a foreign country, there lived a beautiful girl, and her name was Rendersella. Now, Rendersella lived with her mugly other and 2 sad blisters. Also, in this same foreign country, there was a very prancing hench. Now, this prancing hench was going to have a fancy fall, and he invited the people for riles a mountain, especially the pitch reapers. Now, Rendersella's mugly other and her 2 sad blisters, they went out to buy some drancy fesses, you know, to wear to this fancy fall. But Rendersella couldn't go because all she had to wear was some old dirty day. So finally the night of the fancy fall arrived, and Rendersella couldn't go, so she just camped down and shrouded.
She kept down the shrine.
Yeah, right down there and shrouded. And she was kitting her shroud. When all at once there appeared before her Gary Mudfather. And he touched her with his Wysick man. There appeared before her a keg, boach, and Hicks white saucer. You know what to take for the Nancy Fall. So he said, now, Rendersella, you be sure and be home before midnight, or I'll turn you into a pumpkin. So when Rendersella arrived at the Nancy Fall, this prancing hench met her at the door because he'd been watching all this time behind a wooden window. And Rendersella and the prancing hench danced all day. And they lell and fud. And all at once the mid-clock struck night. And Rendersella stays down the wires, and just as she beats the rottum, she slopped her dripper. Yes, sir. So the next day, this prancing hench went all over this foreign country, looking for the beautiful girl who slopped her dripper. And they came to Rendersella's house. Well, he tried it on her mugly other, and it fit and did. Then he tried it on her 2 sickly usters, and it fit and did. Then he tried it on Rendersella, and it fit and did. It was exactly the side right. So they got married and lived happily after happily. Now, Roy, the star of the story is this. If you go to a fancy fall and you want to have a prancing hench all in fun with you, don't forget to slop your dripper.
Oh my God. All right, everybody. I got to get the hell out of here. Don't slop your dripper. You know who loves you, man. The Trailer Park Prophet. See you on Wednesday.